From the dawn of civilization, armies arrived from the ends of the earth to lock swords over Jerusalem, the city that King David chose some 3,000 years ago as the capital of his ancient Israelite kingdom. Two subsequent Jerusalem temples served the Jewish nation for most of a millennia from atop the Temple Mount. Their former site remains Judaism's holiest location until today. In the course of the 1948 Israeli War of Independence, the Jordanians occupied East Jerusalem, capturing the Old City and the Temple Mount, and expelling its Jewish inhabitants. A 1949 armistice agreement left this territory in Jordanian hands. But in violation of its agreements, Jordan denied Jews entry to the city and its holy sites. Jordan systematically desecrated and destroyed 58 synagogues, ancient Jewish religious sites, tens of thousands of graves on the Mount of Olives cemetery that had served the Jewish nation for 2,500 years. For 19 years, the ancient capital lay divided between Jordan and Israel, with 7 miles of urban border separating East and West Jerusalem. When war erupted between Egypt and Israel at 7:14 on the morning of June 5, 1967, Israel lacked the manpower and resources to fight on more than one front simultaneously. It concentrated its forces on the Egyptian front, leaving a single brigade to face Jordan. Israel hoped that Jordan would stay out of the fray. But Jordan had already mobilized 11 brigades on Israel's borders. It had invited Iraq's forces to join an attack on Israel, and it had signed a defense pact that placed its army under Egyptian command to better coordinate an Arab-Israeli war. At 9 a.m., at Egypt's urging, King Hussein ordered the indiscriminate shelling of Jewish Jerusalem and other targets. His planes bombed Israeli airfields. Israel bit its lip, hoping that Jordan was making a formal gesture of solidarity with Egypt, and that the eastern border would soon fall silent. But by 12:30 p.m., Jordan's offensive morphed from a rumble into a roar. Jordanian troops moved into southern Jerusalem's no-man's land and stormed Government House, the UN compound strategic to control of the city's south. Seeing her eastern border catch fire, Israel sent her wings ahead of her claws, first responding to Jordan from the skies. Jordan's airfields and air force were rapidly obliterated. Meanwhile, Israel scrambled to muster an infantry brigade from the north and to divert a paratrooper brigade from the Egyptian front. Israel did not intend to capture the Old City, and certainly not the West Bank. Its stated goal was to secure key roads to Jerusalem, strategic ridges and fortified positions that encircled the city, and to create buffer zones for the future safety of Jerusalem and its environs. Israel also planned to liberate the route to the Mount Scopus demilitarized enclave that included the Hadassah Hospital and Hebrew University buildings. Mount Scopus was located in Jordanian-held territory, but in violation of the armistice. Jordan had severely restricted Israeli access for close to 20 years, rendering the area unusable. In the afternoon of June 5th, Israel launched a surprise assault on Government House. It captured the compound within 25 minutes of fierce fighting, then moved swiftly to take the nearby Naknit and Pa'amon strongholds, so that Israel could take control of the road from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. By 8 p.m., these missions were complete. Meanwhile, an Israeli armored brigade stormed the Tel El-Ful ridge that rises some 2,800 feet above sea level. The ridge was key to controlling the Jerusalem-Ramallah route. Fierce battles raged through the night, but by 9:15 a.m. on June 6th, Tel El-Ful fell to Israel. Early in the morning of June 6th, Israel fought one of its bloodiest battles at Ammunition Hill, a fortification that controlled the road to Mount Scopus. At 3:30 a.m., the battle began. Paratroopers advanced, exposed, without air or artillery cover due to the proximity to residential buildings. Barbed wire, minefields, stone-lined trenches, and cement bunkers formed an impermeable nightmare. Every few meters, Jordanian bunkers spewed relentless fire. often requiring hand-to-hand combat to subdue. Eventually, with all their officers dead, individual soldiers led the battle on their own initiative. As the sun rose some 3 hours later, Ammunition Hill fell as silent as a graveyard. 36 Israeli paratroopers had lost their lives, and today, Ammunition Hill serves as a memorial to their sacrifice. Israel was now free to approach Mount Scopus. At 9:30 a.m. on June 6th, Israeli forces approached the enclave and fought a second bitter battle to capture Mivtar Hill. They accomplished their mission, but 34 soldiers fell this time, along with scores of injured. Down south, Israel made its way to Jordanian Jerusalem's Abu Tar neighborhood. They arrived at noon and fought a lengthy battle against 5 fortified Jordanian positions. By 6 p.m., the IDF had completed their immediate mission. All roads to Jerusalem had been secured, and all enemy strongholds in the immediate area had been captured. The Jordanian forces in the Old City were isolated. At 7:45 a.m. on June 7th, the third day of the war, the IDF High Command issued a surprising order: capture the Old City of Jerusalem. 2 battalions attacked the high ground, overlooking the city from the Jordanian side of the Mount Scopus demilitarized zone, while a 3rd battalion headed for the Old City itself. At 9:45 a.m., Colonel Mota Gore breached Lion's Gate, and at 10 a.m., his voice crackled through the army radio, shouting ecstatic words that still ring in Israel's memory. The Temple Mount is in our hands. Minutes later, IDF Chief Rabbi Shlomo Goren arrived to recite the poignant Shehechi Anu blessing and to sound the shofar, as emotional paratroopers wept and smiled at the ancient stones of the newly liberated wall. The iconic images of that moment have become symbols of Jewish survival and of the nation's inextinguishable bond with the sacred city. A 2nd Brigade entered the city south through the Ashpot Gate to flush out pockets of resistance. At 11 a.m., the Jordanian governor signed surrender papers, and the city elders surrendered at 11:15 a.m. By 1 p.m., the Old City was under Israel's control.